December 1944. As snow blanketed the Belgian town of Bastogne, a fierce and pivotal showdown was brewing. Encircled by German forces, a few thousand Allied soldiers faced overwhelming odds. What unfolded next was not just a battle, but a story of unimaginable courage and survival that would inspire generations. Stay with us as we unravel the Siege of Bastogne, a tale of grit, sacrifice, and defiance. The strategic importance of Bastogne made it a prime target for the Germans. 7 well-equipped German divisions with tens of thousands of troops encircled the town. The roads leading to Bastogne were now filled with enemy tanks, artillery, and infantry. The 101st Airborne Division was deployed to hold Bastogne. Despite their elite status, they faced a situation even their rigorous training couldn't fully prepare them for. Brigadier General McAuliffe, a man respected for his leadership and optimism, commanded these troops. Under his direction, the soldiers dug foxholes, erected barricades, and prepared defensive lines. As the days passed, the defenders of Bastogne faced challenges that seemed insurmountable. The town was blanketed in deep snow, with temperatures well below freezing. Soldiers often wore only their standard uniforms, offering little protection against the cold. Supplies were dwindling fast. Rations were cut to the bare minimum, with soldiers surviving on scraps of food. Ammunition was another critical issue. Soldiers rationed their bullets and calculated each shot carefully. Medical supplies were nearly non-existent, leaving medics to treat wounds with what little they had. Despite these hardships, morale remained surprisingly high. The soldiers were inspired by their mission, to hold Bastogne at all costs. Their unity and shared purpose became a source of strength, with many finding ways to lift each other's spirits. The German army did not relent in their efforts to take Bastogne. Their artillery pounded the town day and night, turning buildings into rubble. Each explosion shook the earth, a deafening reminder of the overwhelming force surrounding the town. Ground assaults followed the barrages, with German infantry supported by tanks advancing toward the American lines. Each attack was a coordinated effort, testing the Americans' defenses. But the 101st Airborne, despite their hardships, held firm. They repelled wave after wave of attacks, using whatever resources they had left. The defenders operated on sheer determination and an unbreakable will to resist. They understood that surrender was not an option. For them, Bastogne was not just a strategic crossroads. It was a symbol of their resolve, a stand against overwhelming odds. Yet, the spirit of the defenders remained unbroken. What kept these men fighting was not just orders or strategy. It was the unyielding camaraderie and shared belief in their cause. Despite being cut off, despite the bitter cold and relentless enemy fire, the men of Bastogne refused to give up. Their defiance became a beacon of hope for the Allied effort in the Battle of the Bulge, a story of survival and courage that would resonate long after the war. Through all the adversity, the defenders of Bastogne were more than just soldiers. They were symbols of resilience, standing as one against impossible odds, determined to hold the line no matter what. The Germans saw Bastogne as key and attacked it hard. 7 German divisions, with thousands of troops, surrounded the town. This cut it off from the outside world. The roads to Bastogne were filled with enemy tanks and soldiers. It was like an island of resistance in a sea of Axis power. The 101st Airborne Division was sent to defend Bastogne. They were known for their bravery. Brigadier General McAuliffe led them. He was respected for his leadership. The soldiers dug foxholes and built barricades. They prepared to defend the town. The situation grew increasingly dire. The defenders faced harsh conditions. The town was covered in snow and it was freezing. Soldiers had to find ways to stay warm. They used newspapers in their clothes and huddled together. Frostbite and hypothermia were as deadly as the enemy. Supplies were running low. Rations were minimal. With soldiers eating just a few bites a day, they had to be careful with their bullets and medical supplies. Despite the hardships, the soldiers stayed strong. They were determined to hold Bastogne. They shared stories and jokes to keep each other's spirits up. The Germans attacked Bastogne day and night. Their artillery destroyed buildings and shook the ground. The defenders faced overwhelming force. German infantry and tanks attacked the American lines. But the 101st Airborne held firm. They used traps and the terrain to their advantage. The defenders were determined to resist. They knew they couldn't give up. Bastogne was a symbol of their resolve. The men fought for camaraderie and their cause. Despite the cold and enemy fire, they refused to surrender. Their defiance inspired the Allied effort. The defenders of Bastogne were symbols of resilience. They stood together against impossible odds, determined to hold the line. By December 22, 1944, the defenders were desperate. They were surrounded by German forces and faced cold, artillery, and low supplies. The Germans offered the Americans a chance to surrender. In the early hours, a German delegation approached the American lines under a white flag. They carried an ultimatum demanding unconditional surrender. The message warned of total annihilation if the Americans didn't give up. The ultimatum was given to Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe. He and his staff listened in a tense meeting. For a moment, everyone was silent, feeling the weight of the ultimatum. Then, McAuliffe broke the silence with a single word: nuts. His staff laughed, easing the tension. When asked for an official reply, McAuliffe stuck with his first reaction. The word nuts was written on paper and given to the Germans. They were confused, but McAuliffe's aides told them it meant, "Go to hell." The Germans left, puzzled by the Americans' defiance. The Germans attacked Bastogne day and night. Their artillery destroyed buildings and shook the ground. The defenders faced overwhelming force. German infantry and tanks attacked the American lines. But the 101st Airborne held firm. The Germans left, puzzled by the Americans' defiance. McAuliffe's reply quickly spread through the ranks. It became a symbol of defiance and humor in the face of danger. It reminded everyone that the human spirit can stay strong even in the darkest times. Soldiers started sharing jokes and smiles about the exchange. Their morale soared. They saw themselves as fighters, not just victims. Nuts became a symbol of their refusal to give up. The German commanders soon understood McAuliffe's message. They launched fierce attacks on Bastogne. Tanks and infantry moved forward, trying to break the American lines. Despite these attacks, the defenders held strong. The 101st Airborne and supporting units fought back with everything they had. The area around Bastogne became a deadly battlefield, filled with wreckage and bodies. Inside Bastogne, the wounded faced harsh conditions. Medical supplies were almost gone, and doctors worked hard to save lives. Bandages were reused and surgeries were done without anesthesia. Despite the tough conditions, the defenders got help from the local Belgian civilians. They provided shelter, food, and helped care for the wounded. This showed the strong bond between the soldiers and the townspeople. With each failed assault, the Germans grew more frustrated. The Americans, though outnumbered, showed great tactical skill. They used the terrain to their advantage and defended key points with determination. The morale of the German troops began to falter. They had expected a quick victory, but found themselves in a tough stalemate. For the Americans, every defense made them believe they could hold out until help arrived. This was no longer just a military battle, it was a battle of the mind. McAuliffe's nuts response showed the American spirit of defiance. It inspired the defenders to fight with all they had. The events of December 22nd were a turning point in the siege of Bastogne. It showed that courage and unity can beat overwhelming odds. As Christmas Eve came to Bastogne in 1944, the defenders were at their limit. They had almost no food, ammo, or medical supplies left. Soldiers barely ate, surviving on chocolate or crackers for a day. The cold was unbearable, causing frostbite in many. The wounded were packed into makeshift hospitals, often without proper care. Medical teams worked non-stop, doing their best with what they had. The air was filled with gunfire and cries of the wounded. Yet the defenders of Bastogne held on, determined to survive. For them, it was more than just staying alive, it was about supporting the war effort. The news of Bastogne's fight inspired Allied forces. General George S. Patton saw the town's importance and planned to save it. Patton was known for his bold tactics. He led his troops on a daring march to Bastogne. They faced icy roads, ambushes, and bad weather, but kept moving. Patton had a bold plan. He ordered 3 divisions to push through the German lines. This was a risky move, needing careful planning and teamwork. The weather was tough, with cloudy skies grounding plains. But Patton was undeterred. He said, "A man who can't fight in the snow isn't fit to wear my uniform." His soldiers followed his lead, pushing through hard times to reach Bastogne. After days of marching and fighting, Patton's Third Army reached Bastogne on December 26. The arrival of American tanks brought cheers from the defenders. It brought hope and relief. Patton's troops worked fast to secure the town. They brought in food, medical aid, and ammo. For the soldiers, seeing fresh troops was a reminder of their sacrifices. The siege lasted 5 days, but its impact was huge. Bastogne's defense slowed the German advance. This delay hurt the German plans in the Ardennes. Patton's success was a turning point in the battle. With Bastogne secure, the Allies launched counterattacks. These attacks pushed the Germans back, ending their advance. Bastogne became a symbol of Allied strength. The bravery of its defenders and Patton's leadership stopped the German offensive. This victory led to the liberation of Western Europe and the fall of Nazi Germany. The Siege of Bastogne is a remarkable story of courage and unity. It shows the power of determination in the face of overwhelming odds. The battle for Bastogne ended with Patton's arrival, but its impact lasted. For the 101st Airborne Division, Bastogne was a test of resilience and courage. The defenders faced incredible challenges and emerged as symbols of Allied determination. They earned the nickname the Battered Bastards of Bastogne, showing their grit and honor. Bastogne's defense was more than a military win. It showed the strength of the Allied spirit. Soldiers from different backgrounds united against a common enemy, demonstrating their commitment to victory. This unity was clear in the stories from the battlefield. Medics worked hard to save lives, using little resources. Local people risked their safety to help the wounded and offer shelter. Even with death and destruction around, kindness and humanity shone through. Bastogne is now a living memorial to those who fought and died there. The town has become a historical site, keeping its story alive for future generations. Visitors can walk its streets and see landmarks from the siege. The Mardassen Memorial is a key tribute. It's a star-shaped monument honoring American soldiers from the Ardennes. It lists the states and units that fought, reminding us of their collective effort. The Bastogne War Museum offers an immersive experience. It shows artifacts, personal stories, and multimedia exhibits. For veterans and their families, visiting is an emotional journey to remember fallen comrades. Bastogne has welcomed many veterans and their families. They come to honor those who served. Veterans share their stories, teaching younger generations about bravery and camaraderie. For young visitors, Bastogne is inspiring. It teaches courage, unity, and perseverance. Educators use Bastogne's story to teach resilience, sacrifice, and the fight for freedom. Bastogne's legacy shows that hope and determination can overcome darkness. The defender's strength is a testament to the human spirit. The Allied victory at Bastogne was a turning point in liberating Europe. It teaches us about the price of freedom and the resolve needed to protect it. Today in Bastogne, visitors are reminded of a powerful truth. The courage of a few can change the destiny of many. Bastogne's story inspires, a beacon of defiance, unity, and hope for the future. The Siege of Bastogne reminds us that even in the darkest moments, the human spirit can triumph. If you found this story inspiring, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Epic War Historian for more incredible tales of bravery and resilience. Share your thoughts or honor a veteran in the comments below.